Beneath a forgotten mountain, a chained dragon waited, 3 centuries bound in silence, until a young healer, with nothing but a bowl of soup, stepped into his prison, unaware that her small act of kindness would ignite an ancient power, unravel forbidden secrets, and decide the fate of both their worlds. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Now, let's jump into the story. The chains that had held the creature for centuries trembled like glass under pressure. A faint crack rang through the cavern, as if the mountain itself had sighed. Metal turned soft, sliding down into silver pools around claws the size of spades. For the first time in hundreds of years, the dragon lifted his head and opened a single golden eye. Mira Dannel stood frozen. Her small clay bowl was empty now, steam fading in the cool air. She had come only to collect herbs and finish her daily deliveries. Yet she had stepped into a forgotten legend. What she saw before her was not the beast of old bedtime tales, but something powerful and silent, carrying the weight of lost centuries in his stillness. Stonevale Village lay far below the ridge, clinging to the steep slopes like moss. Its people rose early to light hearths, hammer iron, and bake bread. They all knew Mira as the young apprentice who worked in her father's apothecary. She spent her days mixing herbs, preparing remedies, and dreaming of places beyond the mountain. Her father Joran always reminded her to focus on her work, saying adventures were for stories, not real life. But today, something had called her away from the familiar paths. It was not a sound or sight, but a pull, soft as a half-remembered tune. She had followed it past the last line of pines, climbed into a rocky ravine, and found a narrow crack hidden in the cliffside. Curiosity had overcome fear, squeezing through the gap. She entered a space so wide it swallowed her breath. Sunlight streamed through cracks high above, cutting through the gloom like pale swords. Dust drifted in the beams, glowing as it spun. The air was cold and still, holding its breath. Then her eyes caught the shape in the center of the cavern. A dragon lay there, chained to the stone by glowing metal links etched with strange green runes. His scales were deep midnight blue, and when the light touched them, they shimmered like a night sky sprinkled with stars. His wings were folded tight, wrapped in heavy bands. His head was larger than any creature she had imagined, resting on forelegs thicker than tree trunks. Mira knew she should run. Every story warned of dragons as fierce and merciless. Yet something about this one did not match the tales. There was no rage in his stillness, only the heavy silence of long years. "Are you alive?" she whispered. Her voice sounded small, almost afraid to exist. One golden eye opened, a black slit pupil narrowed, and a low sound rumbled through the stone. It was not loud, yet it filled the cavern like distant thunder. "So the humans send a child," the dragon said, his voice rough from disuse. "Have you come to mock a fallen storm?" "No," she said quickly. "I didn't know anyone was here." "The world forgets fast," the dragon said. "I am called Sableheart. That name has not been spoken by your kind in 300 years. Mira's thoughts spun. 300 years. The oldest village tales spoke of dragons vanishing long ago, after making peace with humans. No story had mentioned one left behind. "Why are you chained?" she asked, though she feared the answer. "Fear," said Sableheart, "and greed wrapped around it. Your people took the gentle knowledge my elders gave them, then wanted more. I would not give it. So they forged these chains from our own gifts and buried me here." Mira's hands trembled. She wanted to speak, to say something kind, but all she had was the bowl she had carried for her own lunch. "I brought soup," she said quietly, then felt foolish. The dragon made a sound like stone shifting. Kindness, even in small form, is rare here. She set the bowl on the stone near his jaw. The steam curled upward and disappeared into the cold air. Sableheart bent his head slowly, as if unsure the bowl would stay. "My name is Mira," she said. "My father and I heal the people of Stonevale." The dragon's eye softened. "Mira of Stonevale," he said. "Return tomorrow. Bring your herbs. Perhaps not all things are meant to stay lost." As she stepped out of the cavern and back into the mountain wind, her heart felt too large for her chest. The world had quietly changed, and she carried the first thread of that change in her hands. The next morning came with pale sunlight and the smell of wet stone drifting from the mountains. Mira Dannel moved quickly through her chores, her hands steady, though her thoughts were wild. Her father, Joran, watched her pack the satchel of herbs and bundles. He thought she was only heading out to gather plants, but her path aimed higher than any trail he knew. She climbed a steep slope where the wind tugged at her braid and the air grew thin. When she reached the hidden crack in the rock, her heart drummed like it had the first time. She slipped inside the cavern, and the world hushed again, as if the stone itself waited. Sableheart raised his head when she entered, gold eye catching the thin beam of light from above. The chains still gripped his body, glowing faintly, yet he looked less like a prisoner now, and more like an ancient teacher resting between breaths. "You returned?" he said. "I brought more than soup." Mira answered, setting down her satchel. She laid out her bundles across the flat rock: dried starleaf, crushed comfrey, strips of willow bark, jars of mint paste. She spoke each name aloud and told how her people used them. Sableheart listened in complete silence, the tip of his tail slowly stirring the dust. "Your people remember much," he said at last, "but not the roots beneath the roots. They mend the surface, but they no longer listen for the song inside." "Song?" Mira asked, frowning. "Every living thing hums with life," said Sableheart. "Healing is not only leaf to wound, it is teaching the body to find its own song again." His words settled into her like rain into dry soil. She listened as he explained how energy flows like water through the body, how pain is a knot in the current, and how herbs work best when guided by intention. He showed her how to hold a sprig gently, breathe slowly, and feel the faint warmth at its heart. When she sensed it, her eyes widened in wonder. Hours passed like minutes. Light from above shifted across the stone. The cavern smelled of herbs and faint smoke from her cooking fire. She brought out the small clay pot of soup she had carried again, and Sableheart lowered his head to sip. "I thought dragons did not need food," she said softly. "We do not," he replied. But sharing food reminds us of what connects all life. That is part of healing too. After their lesson, she hurried home through the forest paths. Her mind raced with new knowledge. She practiced through the evening, testing small changes in how she mixed salves. Her fingers moved with new care, guided by the memory of Sableheart's calm voice. Within days, people noticed. Coughs eased faster, swelling faded sooner, and even old aches lifted after her treatments. Joran praised her skill, thinking it was her dedication alone. He could not know she was carrying secrets older than their village. Then, a miner was injured during a collapse in the ridge tunnels. The villagers carried him out, pale and gasping. His breaths rattled, and the healers whispered that he would not last the night. Mira sat by his side, while others drifted away, too afraid to hope. She remembered Sableheart's lessons, about the current of life, about listening for the body's hidden song. She brewed a draft with blue moss, silver fern, and a trace of shadow root. She stirred with calm breaths, sending quiet strength into the mix as she worked. The liquid gave off a soft glow, faint as moonlight on water. Fear touched her as she lifted the cup. Then she pushed fear aside and helped the miner drink. By dawn, his color had returned. By noon, he spoke weak words of thanks. By the second day, he stood on his own feet. The village buzzed with wonder. Some called it a miracle. Others whispered of forbidden magic. News spreads fast when wrapped in mystery. By the third evening, riders bearing the crest of the crown arrived. They dismounted at the village square as the sun bled behind the peaks. Their leader, Captain Vardis, had eyes sharp as flint and spoke with quiet authority. He questioned the villagers, then came to the apothecary. Joran stood beside his daughter as the captain asked about strange healing, glowing mixtures, and ancient techniques. Mira spoke little, letting her father answer. Vardis listened, then said they would remain in Stonevale to observe all healing practices. That night, Joran's hands shook as he locked the door. There are reasons old knowledge disappears, he told her. Some doors are too heavy to open. Mira lay awake long after, staring at the ceiling beams. Outside, the warden's blue lanterns bobbed through the dark. Inside, her thoughts burned bright and steady. She knew the old knowledge was alive again, and she knew it was waiting for her to choose how far she would carry it. The wardens searched the village from sunrise. Their blue lanterns swung like cold stars through the early mist. Captain Vardis moved with calm steps, speaking softly to every villager, yet his sharp eyes left no detail unseen. Whispers rose behind doors. Children watched from windows. Fear spread like thin smoke. Mira Daniel kept her expression steady while helping her father at the apothecary. Inside, her thoughts ran fast. She had hoped the miracle cure would fade into quiet talk, but the glowing draft had carried its secret on every breath of gossip. Now the wardens were here, and they would not leave until they found answers. That evening, when the wardens turned their search toward the ridge forests, Mira slipped away. She walked the twisting paths with careful steps, doubling back twice to hide her trail. The mountains held the night like a secret. When she reached the hidden cleft, her breath came fast but steady. Inside the cavern, Sableheart waited. His golden eye caught the thin beam of moonlight from the ceiling crack. "They are closer," Mira said, setting down her satchel. "They search for the glow. They will find this place soon." The dragon tilted his great head. "So the old hunters stir again. The wheel turns." "They call themselves wardens now," Mira said. "They smile and speak gently, but they carry chains in their eyes." Sableheart's gaze stayed steady. "Fear wears many faces." Mira hesitated, then spoke the question that had grown heavy inside her. "There is more you are not telling me, isn't there? My father fears what I have learned. He says some knowledge is too heavy. Are the wardens here because they think your magic is dangerous?" The cavern held stillness for a long moment. Then Sableheart lowered his head until his eye was level with hers. "There are arts I have not shown you," he said. "Not because I doubt you, but because power without patience unravels even kind hands. There are ways to mend life that walk close to the border of unmaking it. Your ancestors reached for those arts. That is why they bound me." Mira's heart thudded. "And if I reach for them too, then you must carry them differently," Sableheart said. "They reached for control. You must reach for care." Mira thought of the miner's family, of their faces bright with hope. She thought of her father's shaking hands as he locked the shop door. She thought of the warden's sharp eyes. "If I stop now," she whispered, "they will still find you, and they will still fear what they don't understand." "And if you go on," Sableheart asked, "then maybe I can show them there is another way," she said. "But I can't do that if you stay chained." The dragon studied her, and the silence between them felt alive. "If I teach you the deeper arts," he said at last, "you must swear one vow. Heal before you seek to impress. Mend before you demand. Let safety guide every choice. Can you swear this, even when fear presses hard?" "I can," Mira said, and she meant it. That night marked a turning. Sableheart began teaching her how to sense the hidden currents of life energy, the threads running below skin and bone. He showed her how the chains drank from his power, twisting the natural flow into knots. He taught her to use food as a living bridge, because meals welcomed what was shared. Each lesson drained her, but filled her with quiet strength. She returned home at dawn, pale and weary, pretending she had been gathering rare herbs. She moved through the shop like a shadow of her usual self. While her father watched her with eyes full of worry, he could not speak aloud. The wardens spread their search wider each day. Their boots pressed new paths into the forest soil. Their lanterns glowed at the foot of the ridge now, close enough that their blue light sometimes reached the lower trees near the cleft. On the fourth evening, Captain Vardis followed he. Mira felt the prickle of his gaze on her back as she walked. She chose the thorn maze path, ducking under branches and slipping through briars. Vardis cursed softly when thorns caught his cloak, and she used the moment to vanish into the rocks. By the time she reached the cavern, her arms were scratched and her breath ragged. "They almost caught me," she said. "We are out of time." Sableheart's eye gleamed. "Then tonight, we move the hinge. But hear me, brave one. What you attempt will pull at the same threads that keep you standing. You must stop before you break." "I will not stop," Mira said quietly. Not while you are still in chains." And in her voice, the mountain heard resolve sharper than iron. The cavern was silent, except for the soft drip of water from the ceiling. Pale moonlight streamed through the cracks far above, painting silver lines across stone. Mira Daniel stood near Sableheart's massive claws, her small frame steady despite the tremor in her hands. ... Tonight would decide everything. She unpacked her satchel in slow, careful motions. Inside were herbs, rare even to her father's trade, gathered from distant crags and shaded groves. She laid them out on a flat rock, naming each as she touched it. Starroot for strength, moonfern for clarity, emberbark for endurance. Sableheart watched her with the stillness of mountains. "Once we begin," he said, "there is no pause. The chains will fight to stay whole. If you falter, they will drink your strength instead." "Then I won't falter," Mira said. She prepared the potion as he had taught her, grinding the herbs into fine powder, stirring them into broth that shimmered with faint light. She moved as though in a trance, each breath measured, each motion sure. When the mixture was ready, she poured it into the largest iron pot she owned, the one her family used for festival stews. The scent filled the cavern, warm and rich with life. Sableheart bent his head low, so his golden eye was level with hers. "Food connects all life," he said softly. "If we can mend the link between us, it may mend the chains as well." Mira lifted the heavy pot with both hands and held it to his jaw. Sableheart drank, slow and steady. As he did, she placed her palms on his scales, letting her energy flow through her arms, through the pot, into the ancient current of his life. Light sparked where her fingers touched. It began as a soft blue, like dawn mist, then grew brighter until it blazed white. Pain lanced through her arms. Her legs shook and her breath came ragged, but she did not stop. The runes on the chains flared green in answer, hissing like angry serpents. The cavern filled with clashing light. The air smelled of metal and ozone. Sableheart rumbled low, lending her his strength, and a new current surged back through her body, warm, vast, and fierce as the ocean. Together they pushed. The first link cracked with a sharp sound that echoed through the stone. Green light bled from the break, then shifted to bright gold. The change raced along the chains, link by link. Like fire leaping dry grass, Mira cried out as the energy pulled at her chest, as if the chains were trying to take her heartbeat with them. Sableheart roared, the sound shaking loose dust from the ceiling. He spread his wings as far as the bindings allowed, and with a final burst of white light, the chains shattered. Metal turned to liquid, streaming down his limbs and pooling around his claws, before fading into nothing. For the first time in 3 centuries, Sableheart stood free. He rose to his full height, wings unfurling to brush the cavern roof. The air trembled around him. Light shimmered across his midnight scales like drifting starlight. He was vast and powerful. Yet his golden eyes were soft when they looked down at the small human swaying on her feet. Mira's vision blurred, the world tilted. Before she could fall, Sableheart lowered one great foreleg and caught her gently against his chest. When she woke, cold air rushed past her cheeks. Her eyes opened to see stars spinning above and darkness spread below. Sableheart's wings beat in slow, deep strokes. They were flying. "You are awake," the dragon said, his voice a low hum through his body. "Good. I feared I had drawn too much of your strength." "Where are we going?" she whispered. "Away from chains," he said, "and toward tomorrow." Below them, Stonevale lay quiet, its chimneys cold, its lanterns dim. Somewhere far below, wardens searched the forest in widening circles, unaware that their quarry soared above them. Mira thought of her father. Sableheart sensed her worry. "He has gone north, beyond their reach. We will find him once we are safe." Relief warmed her chest. She pressed a hand to the dragon's scales, feeling the slow thrum of his life beneath. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," said Sableheart, "we mend what was broken between our kinds, not with chains and secrets, but with trust." The stars wheeled overhead as they flew higher. The world fell away like an old cloak. Mira felt her old life slipping off her shoulders, and something new settling in its place. She smiled through the wind. "Then teach me everything," she said. "I will," the dragon replied. "The sky road is long." And they soared into the night, leaving the past in dust behind them.